PharmaPhobic is powered by Achieve the Lifestyle, a company dedicated to helping you empower your health, redefine your lifestyle, and all for the health of it. You're listening to PharmaPhobic, where we challenge the state of health in America. I'm Janie, a physician assistant, and I've seen how healthcare keeps people dependent instead of truly healthy.
And I'm Dan, a veteran turned fitness pro here to uncover the truth and explore simple and sustainable health solutions. From big pharma to big food, we're exposing the conflicts of interest keeping us sick and finding better ways to take back our health.
No fluff, no gimmicks, just real talk, real solutions, and a little bit of fun along the way.
Hello there. Welcome to another episode of PharmaPhobic, where we help you achieve the strongest, healthiest, and most capable version of yourself. This is brought to you by Achieve the Lifestyle. And once again, I am here with my lovely companion in life, Janie Brown.
Hi, that was much less awkward, thank you.
Well, because we want to get to our guest for part two.
Forget you. Let's get to Ryan.
Yeah, with Ryan. So we left off the previous episode. We talked about how you got in to dealing with, addiction and getting into recovery and that stuff. So now we want to talk about how you got out of the mess, the walk back. You said the solution. You know, you pointed to a very specific time when you decided that it was time for you to put this behind you. So what got you down here and what made you stay? Because you always have a choice, right? Like you said, you could have been like, you know what, screw this.
Yeah.
Just keep rolling.
First things first, I want to let everyone know that's watching this that struggles in any way, shape, or form with obsession, mental health, addiction, anything of that nature, behavioral, lifestyle, eating disorder being a number one. It's a big one nowadays, and fentanyl is plaguing the deaths of a lot of young men and women out there. And so finding that solution, just so you know, the solution's just as close to you as the next hit, as the next fix, as the next everything else. So I want you to know how readily available it is. It's whether it be a state-run facility, federally ran facility, it is literally everywhere. And family is a lot of the times what we rely on. I'm fortunate enough to have a family that didn't give up on me. But some of us take it to the roads where our family can't even do anything for us, and that is actually a good place to be. The more hopeless we are, the easier it is to gain hope. And so this be the savior of the broken, the beaten, and the damned. You choose Christianity, any religion that you want to. You choose sobriety in any of the 12-step programs. You choose a path. Anything better than what we were doing is the solution. And it's a menagerie of all of that stuff. It's a balance of life, of work, of personal affairs, of social affairs, of therapeutic affair. Whether it's with a therapist, rabbi, minister, priest, so on and so forth, a mentor of some kind, some guiding light besides our own crazy mind has been it, and more importantly, for me, the spiritual sense of it all. It's realizing that I don't know what to do anymore. That was my pivotal point. So if any of you guys are feeling like you don't know how to get better, I want you to know that the answer is very simple. The answer is readily available. You can reach out to I'd imagine this show in some way, shape, or form. Put them in contact with me.
Yes.
I'd be happy to facilitate any phone call just to listen, give direction, guidance, so on and so forth. I can share my experience just as I am here. I'll give you all the strength I possibly can, and above all, supply a bunch of hope and let you know that you don't have to walk this journey alone anymore. Because that for me was where I was. I was alone, lonely, and terrified and hopeless, and didn't even know it. Didn't even know it until upon reflection. I didn't know I was there. I didn't have the language to do that. So what is the solution? There's many books written about that. What do you guys think the solution is?
You alluded to it a lot of community. I think that's important. I think having something to work on that involves you, but it also involves others, is definitely important too. Um, you know, working on yourself, seeing beyond the physical, and working on realizing that every one of us, all 8 billion of us, or however many billions of people have ever existed in the history of the world, we're all a physical, a spiritual, and a mental/emotional being. And you need to deposit into those 3 categories accordingly if you truly want to have the word that comes to mind is balanced existence. But if you want to be, life is going to be chaotic, right? No matter how much control you have of it. But if you truly want to be able to swim in the chaos of life, you need to be aware that you don't just work on your physical, you don't just work on your spiritual, you don't just work on your mental/intellectual, emotional component. You got to work on all of them. It's a 3-legged stool.
And could I say it's accurate to say that at one point in time, you guys have been afraid of not being able to achieve all of those in one point in time in your life?
Yes.
Yeah, I am definitely the product of neglecting emotional growth, emotional intellect for a long period of time. Like you said something in the previous episode about you had 2 speeds. It was happy or anger. And I lived that life for a long time. I was either happy or I was flying off the handle angry. Like, my dad likes to say that temper runs in the Brown lineage. It's like, hey, we just have a bad temper. It runs in the blood, you know. So
but why? But why?
That's a good question because, my grandfather and my father are both they're very measured men. You know what I mean? It's not like they were reckless but they were at certain points in their life, in certain situations, but they're very measured, very composed, but they did have crazy tempers. And same way. And
how much has the family actually spoke of the temperament issue more so than the actual issue?
Good question. Yeah. And you know what? What helped them? Spirituality.
Yeah.
My grandfather, oof. Yeah. I think the stories of my grandfather, he obviously passed away, but they were very, larger than life. Very, what's the word that I'm looking for? It's like classic Hispanic machismo, bar fights and women and all this drinking and parties and all this stuff, and he had a family too. So he was but where he really got grounded and was able to put all that away was when he became a spiritual person. And my father didn't live that life. He was very, because he saw that and he's like, man, I don't want to do that. He didn't want to drink like my grandfather. I wouldn't put my grandfather in the alcoholic category, but he liked to drink, very social, very big social drinker. And my father didn't go that route. But, I think the temper was somewhere in there. And for me, it would, but I think my sisters kind of have a similar thing too. Like we all just have this drive where it's like the anger just rises to a certain point. And then you add to that military work. My grandfather did it, my father did it, and then I did it. And you have to be very emotionally detached, right? So I doubled down on that part. It's like I'm either happy or I'm angry, and then I'm letting the anger drive the bus, kind of. Yeah. Sometimes you like pick anger to be able to do stuff, right? You're like, oh, this is gonna require me getting pissed off so I can get through this. So then I was like, boom, you go dark, and then you let that drive the bus, right? So you said that earlier, and I identified with it. I was like, ooh, I remember those days where emotional intellect, and it affected a lot of stuff, relationships, that sort of thing. And if I hadn't changed that, I would not be married today. You know what I mean? Like I would have never, and the minute that I changed that was when I was able to have the relationship that I have with Janie now, It was, prior to that, it wouldn't have been possible. It would have not been possible. So I almost met you at the right time. You know what I mean?
Almost.
Yeah. And now you'd say these things are like preordained, right? And yeah, it wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have happened. I would have figured out a way to mess it up.
First things first, I want to thank you for that vulnerable moment. That was amazing. That was really, really cool. Thank you for letting us know who your grandfather is through you. And that's so a big part of my journey is grief and loss. And so yeah, finding a solution to something I don't know how to deal with has been part of letting someone know that I'm feeling really strong emotions is something I didn't usually do. And so for you to have that courage to do that is like, it's a God-given right. Why did we shut it off for so long? Why did we shut it off? For me, that's a lot of my solution. Being able to communicate, like openly, honestly, and but that has a lot to do with the solution, the spirituality. And what is spirituality? What is faith? What is God? God is ineffable, cannot be explained, so on and so forth. So what is faith? What is faith over fear? And that's actually really hard to communicate because what is faith? It's believing in something that you have no tangible way of actually obtaining.
Yeah. And that's interesting because faith over fear doesn't mean that you're not afraid.
Precisely.
Which, yeah.
It just means that you're choosing one perspective of the mind over the other. And that's something that we all live with. And, scientifically, that's a dialectical aspect of things. You're not only scared, but you're also content, or secure. And so you look at a lot of dialectics. You could learn so much in this industry. You could learn so much in what you guys do. In PharmaPhobic is such an amazing name because it actually implements the word fear. But you guys still choose faith. So that's what I absolutely love is bringing the truth to the reality. What is our truth? Why are we afraid to speak our truth? And that's something for me is what the solution is. And that's what I say when I say honesty. I mean honesty and transparency. That means rigorous honesty to the point where like you probably aren't going to like some of the things I say, and I don't need you to like me, but I do need you to trust me. And that's something that I never used to work on. I used to only work on the aspect of I need this person to like me in order to have that community. And a lot of people get lost down that road. Instead of that, like, hey, here's my raw, authentic, true self. And so I want to thank you for that. That's what this is about. It's being real. Being real. That's what I believe this show is about. That's what I love about this. Is do I know all the answers? Absolutely not. Will I ever know all the answers? Absolutely not. Do I know the solution? Theoretically. Do I know I don't walk this journey alone anymore? Absolutely. I know that in my heart of hearts. Do I believe that? Yes. Are there some days where I don't believe that? Absolutely. It doesn't mean that I no longer think the way I used to. But it does mean that I know a solution out of it. And for me, yes, community, connection. When you don't have people, what do you have left? You have yourself. And for those with a little bit of faith, you have spirituality. So how do you carry that with you in all walks of life? And you just showed a perfect example of that. Your grandfather's past life. But you also shared the experience of a generational rift of military background and shutting off emotions and then trying to come back to reality and getting lost, confused, and scared in all sorts of different realities, realms of the mind if you have it. So what is the solution? How do you get honest when you're literally trained not to be honest in society, in the medical field? And, you can't say this because it's not accurate by somebody's standards, but you believe it so strongly in another way. So how do we just open up the book here without fear of being condemned for our beliefs? And we live in a free country where we're allowed to be able to say anything and do anything and so on and so forth to an extent. Why don't we feel that? Why don't we feel that? And that's what the solution is for me, is accepting everyone for who they are, accepting me for who I am. And that's probably the harder thing to do, is accepting myself for who I am. And that's been my journey. So day number one, I come down here, instantly go to a facility where it's detox facility. Everyone has heard that, right? So yeah, I come down, I do a detox, and the substance I was using, cocaine, didn't require much of a detox. I did have an infection on my leg, so they gave me antibiotics, and they monitored my vitals and made sure I wasn't going to die. So detox is always preferred for somebody that's been consuming a lot of alcohol, drugs, or whatever else they're going through. Eating disorder is another big one. That one takes a long time. Long time to get better from, and to do that on your own is very, very difficult. So detox, everyone hears it. I speak with this one guy, and I love the one thing that he says. He says, the one thing that the guys had, and when all this recovery business, if you want to call it, started, the one thing we have that they didn't have was knowing that after a long run, and you hear the word relapse a lot, after a long run, you have a safe place to go to because of insurance or state-run facilities and so on and so forth. Where back then, they lock you up. They give you, you're clinically insane at that point in time. So it's a little softer right now. I had to remind myself the facility I went to was a treatment center for the clinically insane. I could not look at it any other way because I was insane. At that point in time, I was very much insane. Do I believe that I could be restored to sanity? Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the difficult aspect. So that's the solution. How do we get sane thinking? Well, a lot of us do a lot of work to get to a believable sanity. And I always say superficial compliance. What the heck is superficial compliance? I'll keep putting a nice coat of white paint on a rotten fence, and you'll believe that that fence is beautiful. But it's not. Underneath it all, it's still rotten and deteriorating and falling apart. So how do we get to the raw truth? No doctor, no therapist, no facility, no person, not even God can help us if we can't be honest with ourselves. So there are a few circumstances where I got to say, like, God probably might be able to intervene on that stuff because I just believe in the world on that. But it takes two to tango. He also gives us free will. And I believe that. So I come down to a treatment facility for the clinically insane. I get to stay there for 4.5 months. I found out that I no longer wanted to use substances in any way, shape, or form. I was given God's grace on that. And my solution to that was continue going to the 12-step program that I prefer. And one thing I didn't ever deal with was learning how to deal with grief and loss. One thing I didn't ever deal with was the generational rift. One thing I didn't deal with was knowing that I needed help in this world. And more importantly, I didn't ever learn how to ask for help in an appropriate way unless it was like a transactional thing. So how do we get to that point? For me, it was where I went to, it was a safe environment for me to be who I was, accepted for who I was. And you'll hear this a lot of times. Some people go in there and they're like, man, someone put me in here, the world's against me, so on and so forth. I never really had that experience to an extent. I went to 2 other treatment facilities for the clinically insane before that. Medical field likes to call it substance use disorder, patent. Doesn't sound so bad. My son's not an alcoholic. He just has disorder.
Yeah.
No, I was crazy. Still am a little bit. So a safe environment. Learn how to be accepted for who we are. Where does it go from there? You got a bunch of professionals that have been through this with literally thousands of other individuals. Their experience, some of them in recovery themselves, their personal experiences, their experiences with the literature, and their own personal way of dealing with the way I'm good at lying. Help me sort through the mess that I was and still am in some days. And I want to emphasize that like sparkly, like sunshine and butterflies doesn't really, it's not achievable 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
But when I got down there, I was so delusional. When I got down here, I was so delusional that was literally my nickname at the facility. They were like, Ryan, how you doing? It's sunshine and mother effing butterflies. That's what I would say. That was my name. I'm like, dude, it's all cool. It was literally to the point you could have ripped one of my arms off, and I would have been like, that's cool. I got another one. It's cool, man.
Yeah.
And being beaten into this state of that reasonableness allowed me to start thinking beyond the realm of just the three-dimensional realm. And now we're talking into the fourth dimension of existence, as they speak of in a lot of different programs, which is the spiritual realm. Mm-hmm. So what the heck is a spiritual realm? It's really tough to accurately say that. That's not going to upset a lot of people.
I wish I cared.
I mean,
I wish I cared.
I don't look at it as upsetting people. I think it's going to provoke people to think, and then whatever resulting emotion is on them.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And there's a reason why spirituality is such a button to everybody. I don't think there's anybody who hears about spiritual matters that doesn't react in one way or the other, right? It's the same thing with the name of this podcast. When we started kind of throwing it around and beta testing it, if you will, you had two reactions. Either you're like, what do you mean? Or that's awesome. Yeah. There was no, okay. It wasn't like that. So spirituality is the same thing. People hear it, they're like, turn this off, hocus pocus type stuff. Or they lean in.
Yes.
You know what I mean? There's no indifference to it. And there's a reason for that. Why? Because even if you choose not to acknowledge it, you know that this is part of the equation. For even if you've never been exposed to it, even if nobody's ever told you about, you know what, man, you're more than what you can see. You know, there's a spiritual component here that you can't see. And you're like, oh, I didn't know that. Even if you've never had that conversation, you know there's a reaction, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's actually well put. I like that because there is always that reaction. And I love reading that reaction on somebody. I loved reading it on myself. You know, is the walk of shame, like you're talking about God. My eyes would go down. I'm staring at shoelaces now, you know, and that's back to the society we live in. It's a fear-based society, and it's unfortunate, but it's for the most part true. For the most part true. There are a few amongst the world that walk in sincere faith, and I absolutely love watching that. That is something that I strive for. Those are the people that I look up towards, to now, where I used to look at them as weak and non-driven and so on and so forth. So my perspective has changed significantly.
I can relate to that. Yeah.
And like I believe in myself and none other, and I was my own God, and you know, money was my God, and drugs were my God, and you know, work was my God. I had made many gods as a human. I had made a lot of mistakes as a human.
We went, this was last year, to the Creed concert. By the way, before you say anything about me liking Creed, keep your opinions to yourself. I'm kidding.
as he puts his own opinion out there.
Creed is fire, okay? And I will fight you it's fire. It's awesome. So we went to the concert, and it was awesome concert. Like, I was not expecting to see guys that were that old. I was listening to Creed when I was in like high school, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm 42 years old now, and I'm like, man, it's just gonna be some old guys that I used to like, and it's gonna be nostalgic. They might not be that good, but it's gonna be fun. No, they were amazing. But he said something, and you know, the singer Creed, he's had his recovery battles, right? Mm-hmm. And he said something that I was like, yo, that is the most real thing I've heard. He said, people that won't acknowledge God or spirituality or anything like that, they'll see something terrible, like an accident, something horrible, and the first words out of their mouth is,
oh God.
Boom. So he's like, it's in your DNA to appeal to a higher power. It's like this is how you were built. You know, And that's what I'm talking about. You know, if you sit there with it, you might get really uncomfortable. But if you sit there with it, you're like, no, there's absolutely something here.
So that's part of the recovery journey, sitting in that discomfort long enough to be able to actually see something differently. Mm-hmm. And, you know, as you guys are very much into fitness, you know how uncomfortable fitness is sometimes. And, you know, the old motto is like, just dig into it, no pain, no gain, you know, things of that nature, which is true to an extent. Mm-hmm. But there's like an acceptable, moderate amount of pain. And then there's just like, you are injuring yourself and it is not a benefit to you or anyone else in this world. And that's where selfishness really stems from, you know. Mm-hmm. I want, I will get. And what are we doing? We're obsessing. Mm-hmm. So how do we find that balance? What is the solution? Solution is spelled out in so many different ways, but my experience of the solution was the safe environment, a healthy therapist. My therapist, it was the first person I trusted, first man that I trusted in my adult life. At 36 years old. No, it's probably the first person. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think person, wholeheartedly. Just could say anything, and he accepted me for who I was. Then in the program I work, I picked up a sponsor who guides you through the steps, and being able to do that and follow direction. Another person, I lucked out. These are all acts beyond me. Yes, I had some way in being able to choose some of these things, saying yes or no or whatever, so on and so forth. But I was being in such a state of reasonableness. I got to the place where I was like, okay, I'm just going to follow direction. Did I do that perfectly? No. You know, there's rules at the facility. Don't do this, don't do that. And I did a lot of those things. You know, some of them I rationalized so quickly I didn't even know I was doing wrong. Mm. And that is, you know, you ever come up to a light, it's yellow, and you're going to run through it. But some days like that other thought comes over, like, it's yellow. I'm not supposed to go through it. I'm supposed to slow down and stop.
That's a really good example.
Why do we, what changes from time to time? Why is our perspective different one time, not the other? And we could go through a lot of analyticals on that. But, you know, bottom line, we choose a lot of different things really, really, really quickly. You know, there's a lot of science out there about how many thoughts we have per day. I've heard a range between 7,000 and 70,000 thoughts per day. We get to choose whether to respond to those thoughts in a healthy way or in an unhealthy way. So how do you retrain your mind? And this is where therapy really comes into play. This is where the spiritual program really comes into play, is realizing what those are. And, you know, hear a lot of songs, The Voices in My Head, one of my favorite bands, you know. There are dialogues going on in all of us internally, you know, the good angel, the bad angel, you know, or the angel and the demon, or whatever you want to look at it. What internal dialogue is going on? So I had a really loud noise going on in my head of saying something that I actually couldn't hear, is the best way that I could say it. And it was behave, be good, do right, all those things, superficial compliance. Go home, lay my head down at night, and the dialogue to myself, my review of every day was, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I can't cope, I'm not lovable. Negative. How do you change that? Therapeutically, there's a lot of different ways. For me, it was literally just acknowledging some simple ways is that's not true. Crap, I can't trust my brain. I'm just going to follow direction. And that's what I did, blindly. Literally blindly. So I put my life into somebody else's hands. And if you know the steps at all, in order to get better and have a spiritual experience, as they say, is that, you know, make a decision to turn your will and your life over to the care of God as we understood him. That is really hard to do. Not hard in a moment. It's hard to do for a life. Mm-hmm. Making that decision, and then the rest of the steps are basically following through with that decision to turn your will and your life over to the care of God as you understand them. And then we just continue to do those, continue to teach those, and they become a part of a lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And that's the beautiful aspect of it. And that's the simplicity of the program. Why do people choose to go back to drinking, drugs, fentanyl, so on and so on, eating disorders, codependent relationships, all those different things? Instant gratification. So why do we choose to drink in the first place? Why do we choose all these different weird coping mechanisms? For me, I chose them all so that I can escape reality in some way, shape, or form. That is my journey. So I love caring for others. I escaped reality by caring for others. That's why no matter how much good I did, I was not in reality. Until I came to reality and I go lay my head down at night and that voice says all the negative. Because I was not able to properly acknowledge that all these good things I was doing was actually a good deed. Because I was using them for self or self-seeking reasons. I was using them to feel good about myself. So they're temporary. Mm-hmm. So fortunately, I went to a place where they put me on what's called a helping ban. I wasn't allowed to help anybody.
You were on a helping ban.
Yes.
I love that they recognize that about you.
That is really cool, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Helping ban.
Helping ban.
I've never heard
They
that.
have to wean you off the helping people.
It's a serious thing.
Yeah. No, I can appreciate how it's a serious thing. I've never heard of them actually doing that. So are you talking like this was while you were in the 4.5 months of recovery? And so you weren't allowed, like if another person there, another patient there was like hurting or suffering, you weren't allowed to go over and console them?
For the most part, yes.
Yeah. What about like
not even holding a door.
Okay. Thank you for. Wow.
Yeah.
How did that make you feel?
Completely inadequate. Of zero value. In layman's terms, humble.
Yeah. And so.
Uncomfortable.
Yeah, I was going to say, was that uncomfortable?
Very.
But then after a while, did you feel like you were like, oh, like it's not, my worth isn't tied to me? Or is that something that took much longer? Did that happen within the 4 months?
It's still happening to this day.
Okay.
I still struggle with that, actually.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think it's ever going to completely go away.
Correct.
Right? But was there a market improvement in that 4 months? Or?
Significant.
Okay.
Yeah, it was tied with one other event, which is so there's another form of therapy, like equine therapy, working with horses, so on and so forth, which was really kind of a cool experience, found experiences for me. This is my perspective of my household growing up, is I asked for things without actually asking for them, help including. Mm-hmm. And that was just kind of how we communicated. We just knew what other people needed or wanted, and so we just do them. Little I know the actual harm of doing that over a long period of time. And for me, it was significant in the negative self-worth aspect of things that I say when I lay down at night. No matter how much good I did, it didn't account for any value. And so at equine therapy, one of the games was move the horse's feet, get the horse to move its feet. Like I'll walk up to it, act like a predator. And I'm with a patient that is there with me. And it's a female, and she does not get the horse to move its feet as, let's just say, as efficiently. And she's a tall, skinny, about the same age, yeah. So I think she was about 30 years old at the time, mid-30s, something of that nature. And not intimidating at all, just to give a little picture. Just, walk up. You never see her as a threat, that sort of thing. And walks up to this horse, and the poor horse, the horse is not going to move. It's not threatening at all. I don't consider myself particularly scary, but for some reason I play that role really well. I don't see myself as scary, but I know others perceive me as that. And so I walk up to this horse, and I get it to move its feet right away. And she breaks down crying, and I can't figure out why. And so we get back to the corral. The horse therapist calls us back to the corral, and she's like, okay, what did Ryan do wrong? And I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
First time in my life, I realized that I impose my will and help people even though they don't ask me to. And that's another form of imposing my will. So coupled with the helping band, all these things are getting tied together because I really do want to get better. And that's what makes treatment really successful is when you actually want to get better. I realize I am the problem. I realize I need to do the work needed to get done, to get better, you know? And so yeah, helping band, realizing I impose my will just by helping people. Even holding a door is imposing your will, saying that you cannot, like on a subconscious realm, it's saying you're not capable of holding that door yourself. Yeah, it's you know, it's being a gentleman, it's being nice, it's whatever the heck it is. But I just took all that stuff to the extreme because that's who I am. I'm an extreme individual. So how do you take that away? Because that's the only way I actually knew how to value myself really in life, is being needed. And so you take the need away, and all I'm left with, do you want me? But I didn't want myself. So now we're in this really cool quandary of psychological warfare going on in my head. Why would I even show up? This is where the depression really comes into play, or depressive type of personality. Is, am I depressed? Or am I just been lying to myself this whole time and didn't even know it? And for me, not necessarily depressed, not necessarily situationally depressed. I was depressed that I was down on myself. I felt inadequate. I felt embarrassed that I was so naive, so ignorant. But if I can get over myself on that, then yeah, the humble aspect is I was wrong. No one likes to admit defeat. Nobody. So that's my journey. My journey is admitting defeat after defeat after defeat after defeat, saying I'm wrong, I don't know what to do, I need help, can you help me? I'm willing to receive help. Rinse and repeat.
Then working on something.
Continuously following direction. Continuously making mistakes.
Because there is a place of acceptance, but then there's action that has to take place behind it, right?
You don't truly accept it if you don't have another try in you.
That makes sense.
You're avoiding it, and then therefore it's not accepting, it's tolerating and something intolerable.
Yeah. I'm thinking about jiu-jitsu where, like, you know, you lose at a tournament or something, and then first of all, there's the kicking yourself part because it's like, what the hell happened to me that I'm better than this type of thing, or why did I lose this, you know, and then it's like figuring out why. But then there's, I could go back to training and just keep doing what I'm doing, or I could go back to training and realize that I need to work on some things and then upping my game so that when I go back out, I'm equipped, right? Which is, I think it took me 8 years to play that game of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
To play that game of, I lost. I could do this better. Let me double down on working on things that I'm not good at to actually get better versus, no, I'm just going to keep doing what I was doing. You know, I just need to do what I was doing.
That's a cool part of the program that we work is, you know, the acceptance is the answer to all our problems. No person, place, or thing can make us feel any certain way except for ourselves. It's an abbreviated version of what acceptance is. Beautiful part is like, you wanted to get better, but you had to first accept that you were wrong, right? I don't know many. It took me 20 years to admit I was wrong.
Yeah. Sticking with the jiu-jitsu example, and this is very minimal compared to like that, but I think it's related because we talk about whenever we sign up for competitions, like on the way there, we're like, why are we doing this? It's terrifying.
Yes.
Because you're getting ready to highlight your deficits, right? And to willingly be able to do that is tough in just a game.
Yeah.
Now your life, you know?
Yeah, and there's a lot more, obviously there's a lot more at stake when it's like, it becomes about sobriety, but it's like, there's a challenge there, right? And then you have to choose to take it on.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
That is, yeah.
I'm not trying to equate them.
Please
I'm just
do.
saying,
Yeah.
I'm saying it's obvious in that regard. And I know a lot of people can relate to that because you think about going, if you're in any sort of athletics, anytime you get to the level of competing, you're really putting yourself out there. But then doing that with your whole life is much more complex. And like, if I don't win at jujitsu, it's like I still have a job, I still have a family, you know? And so
you also said, you used the word simple, like it's very simple. The solution is simple, right? And I always, this is something I find myself saying all the time, because people hear simple and I don't know why people think easy, right? And it's like, they're not the same thing. Simple and easy are not synonymous, okay? Simple is conceptual, easy is execution related, right? So you can say, hey, I have to do these things to get clean. Super simple to identify. Boom, boom, boom. I need community. I need a spiritual base. I need to stay away from temptation. Bow, simple. Now you have to walk the walk on that. That's where the easy or hard comes into play, right? So I don't know why people get lost there when you tell them it's simple. They're like, oh, shit, like it's easy. Brother, it's not the same thing. You know what I mean?
Look at the life we live in, though, with, all the social media and so on and so forth. They illuminate the opposite of deficits. They only show the assets.
The highlights.
And all the deficits are a secret or sneaky behavior or so on and so forth. I won't illuminate that. So, like, when you do something wrong, you don't post that on your social media. You don't say, hey, I got an opportunity to learn. Why not? Why not? This is me. I made a mistake. Instead, I mean, you look at anywhere from politics all the way down. It's used against them. How do you... For me, it's been a arduous journey of resisting the social judgment, if you want to call it, versus the internal judgment. And then if you really want to go with spiritual judgment.
Yes. Yeah, I was going to say that's really tough, because if you follow that path of society, being approved in society is not synonymous with being approved spiritually or at our core what satisfies us.
And when your family is your higher power, how does your family judge you or accept you?
Yep.
When your work is your higher power, if they don't accept you or judge you,
Or you lose that job.
or if jiu-jitsu is your higher power.
Yeah.
We choose a lot of different things to become superior to our own well-being. And I believe in every man, woman, and child, we have that lower nature, higher nature of knowing what's right and wrong. We've gotten really good at ignoring that. Because for me, I couldn't achieve that capital achievement. I couldn't get to be the best in certain areas. So, the old Talladega Nights, Ricky Bobby, if you ain't first, you're last, Makes sense to me.
Legend in the game, Ricky Bobby.
So one thing I like how you've kind of alluded to is that sobriety is it okay to call it sobriety? Is there a preferred? Okay.
I'm very open-minded to all. Yeah, you can call
because I don't like. I personally
degenerate
don't like clean.
alcoholic, scumbag, alcoholic, drug addict. The loser.
No, but
really, at one point in time, these are all accurate statements.
Okay.
That is not who I am, though. These are determining. These are accurate statements to who I was at one point in time. Do I consider myself an alcoholic? Do I consider myself in sobriety? Do I consider myself in recovery? Yes.
Okay.
All those are accurate.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in achieving sobriety, it is a continual process, struggle, work. It's not sunshines and butterflies as soon as you make a choice to not drink again or use again.
That's the cool part. If you get to that place of surrender, for me, the definition of surrender is phenomenal, and this is another thing I learned in treatment. Treatment for the clinically insane. So, what is the difference between acceptance and surrender? Was the question that was asked to me. And for some reason, this is another intervention of Providence Source. It was like, I'm about to give some BS answer, and that individual working with would have been fine with my BS answer, and it would have been close enough to be like, whatever. I guess he's got something at least, and have a little bit of hope that I find more, And instead, for one moment, I had another divine intervention there. Is I don't know, was my answer, which was huge for me. I don't know. So I did the work, researched it, asked people for help. They didn't have the help. They said, go to this person for help. That person didn't have it. Go back to this person. Go back, ask the right questions now. But persistently asking for a solution is basically what you're asking. That's what sobriety is. We're constantly seeking a solution. I could constantly seek the problem and say, I don't know, I don't want help, and I don't need you.
Does that process ever stop?
No, it can't.
There you go.
Right.
That's what I want people to
It
take
cannot.
away. Yep. Same thing as working on long-term health. Same thing as working on good, solid relationships, a good marriage, good friendships. You know,
One
adding
thing
sobriety to it is you never stop working on it.
I've been working on is forgiveness. Superficially, you're like, okay, you just say you forgive them and then that's it, right? And then I was given from our pastor some guidance on it, and I was following this outline, and it is a rude awakening on the act of forgiveness is not about you.
Nothing to do with you.
And that was hard. But I'm very appreciative that I've been working through it because I think it's changed a lot in other aspects of my life because of it. But it was almost like a slap in the face. And the beautiful thing about it is that even when you choose to start the process of forgiving somebody or forgive them, the work is never done. Because you're constantly going to struggle with it. Some things are going to be okay. Things that you resorted to anger to avoid, now that the forgiveness is there, the anger's gone, so these things come up. So now you're like doing the work again on some stuff that you thought that you were done with. And I just imagine that working on something like sobriety is very similar to that.
You should say why you have to work on forgiveness.
Why?
You should say it. Because it relates to Ryan's story.
Okay, I didn't want to make this. Okay,
It is about you.
But it relates because it paints a picture.
But no,
right?
that's a beautiful thing because that's what community is. It involves all of us. So whatever you have, whatever I have, if we sew those all together, then we become one.
Well, and it also, people might need reasons to get clean, quote unquote, and choose sobriety and choose to leave addiction behind. And, it pertains to your story because you have children, right? So
That's
obviously,
the next chapter, yeah.
Yeah,
I can't wait to
obviously
talk
this
about that.
addiction is not just you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my biological father, I'm assuming he was an addict. He sold and he out of the home was addicted. To what exactly? I don't know. I was too young, but I was walking my dog and I felt like a pull to just be done with this. Be done with the anger. Just be done with this. You need to forgive. And so I reached out to our pastor and I was like, I don't even know how to approach this. And this is a beautiful thing about where we're led, but our pastor also did not have a good relationship with his father. And he also worked on forgiveness of him and so was able to pull from his experiences and give me guidance. And I've just started working on it. And it's not easy. It's not straightforward. And then the questions come up of, if I forgive them, do I have to talk to them? Do I have to let them back in? Do I have to have a relationship with them? Or do I just say it into the abyss and it's done?
Yeah. So you can kind of see why I wanted you to say that was because, substances were in the home, right? And they were being abused one way or the other, whether he was pushing it to other people or he was partaking in it himself. And that had an effect on how you developed as a child, right? So that comes to play because, we hear the stories of the addict or the person that enters recovery of how they were affected. But it's like, man, a lot of people next to you were obviously affected by it.
Back to the generational rift.
Yep.
And that actually, for me, that's my wheelhouse. I absolutely love working through that. There's a lot of controversy around it. Obviously, I never want to the complexity of the psychosocial dynamic of a family dynamic. The family dynamic is just very complex because you got to take into consideration all the variables. You know, you have one pinpoint scenario that you're targeting forgiveness of. How do you forgive somebody? How do I forgive myself for being an alcoholic? How do I forgive myself for making poor choices? How do I forgive myself for not being there as a father? How do I forgive anyone that has hurt me? I've been coached on this therapeutically to the aspect of first finding compassion before I could actually achieve forgiveness. The simple definition of compassion is literally understanding one's suffering. There's multiple definitions of that, but that's the one that applies to the forgiveness realm that I work with. It's particularly with what it sounds like your dad as well. So how do we understand one's suffering? We could go back 3 generations. For me, I could go back, several generations as well. There's a long heritage of boxers and brothels and gambling and, all that stuff in my family heritage. Do I blame them? No. They did the best they could, right? But how do we find forgiveness? If you find the E equals MC square equation for that,
Please share.
please put it out there. And the best way I could say is the parental aspect of it for me is I can't be a parent to my kids until I learn how to parent myself the way that I prefer to be parented. And that is another part of my journey through treatment. And this was on a whiteboard one day. And it said, safety and consistency equals structure. Every human being desires structure, especially children. And for the life of me, I've sought that structure my whole life, but was never so much provided that. And even if it was provided, it was so foreign I didn't want it. It was back to the uncomfortable word.
Yeah, safety is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Peace is uncomfortable.
I became comfortable in having anger towards individuals, blaming individuals, so that I didn't have to face my reality. So how do we sit down? I love Metallica wrote 3 Unforgiven songs, right? Yeah, so Unforgiven 1, 2, and 3. So do we forgive it? What is the act of forgiveness? And how do we not pick up the condemnation of it all time and time again? So we live in a state of remorse and memories and so on and so forth. Remorse being like the strong emotion that almost to the point where we're actually back in the moment. A lot of the stories that we have until we're like, we give them to somebody else. And this is back to the program for me. And it sounds like it's very similar to like what you guys do, admit to God, to ourselves, another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs. How do we accept somebody to wrong us? That's the other hard part. We don't deserve it. No one deserves to be wronged. I take those a lot heavier. The wrongs that I did to my family, my kids, my peers, I have a harder time forgiving myself for and living with and persevering through. Once again, live in a society where we're not allowed to admit those faults openly. So one of the ways to minimize that is by sharing it with as many people as I humanly can. keeping in mind the difference between privacy and secrecy. Saying it in a way where I have one of the things that I say is at any given point in time, I have like 20 people that know where I'm at, not because I'm awesome, that's how much help I need.
Okay.
And that helps me with accountability in a lot of different areas of my life. But more importantly, it helps me with security.
Mm-hmm.
And I could go to any one of those 20 people and talk to them openly about any of the things that I cannot forgive myself or others about, or in that nature, in that realm. And once I share it with 20 different people, it doesn't feel nearly as powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, then I start challenging the storyline, because then I write it down. Now I write it down. Now it's on pen and paper. So now the story just changed a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And then I share it again and again and again and again until it's honed into, practiced into what it actually is. And slowly challenging myself, what's accurate, what's inaccurate, how much is emotion, what's an accurate emotion, what's not an accurate emotion, what actually happened, what do I believe happened. And then there's certain areas where we don't even know what did happen. So why are we creating a story to fill in that void, just to impact what our perspective is, whether it's I want to be angry at that individual or not angry at that individual. So how do we forgive ourselves for something that we can't even, for the most part, remember accurately?
Yeah.
How's that walk? Like, because you got to make amends, right? How's that?
Making an amends. A lot of controversy around that one. As is written in the book of the program that we practice, it's very simple, very, very clean. And I watch a lot of people walk it, and once again, that's what it is. It's a journey. It's not made to direct amends to such people wherever possible, except for when to do so would injure them or others is the step, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where's the translation? We could go medical. What's the ethical boundaries of injure them or others? Do no harm, right?
Yeah.
Or you could go, you got to clean your side of the street in order to like find relief, so you don't create more injury and more, hurt people sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to find that relief so that you don't hurt any other people. But what is forgiveness? You said it's a self journey, right? So a lot of people are like literally like going to wait for somebody else to forgive them. So what is truly making amends? It's internalizing the aspect of I've done wrong. I did not do this, in ill form or so on and so forth. I've acknowledged my wrongs, and I will no longer do those things. It's literally making a change in the way that we operate, the way we think, the way we believe, the way we feel, so on and so forth. It's an internal, literal change. It's the same thing that happened when they said you're on a helping ban and you can no longer help people. I had an actual mending moment in my life. It was a pivotal moment in my life. Holy crap, I hurt people. Now we could do like the show, My Name is Earl, and go around and make this huge list and go all over the country and try and like make all the possible amends humanly possible. But what it says is be willing to make the amends. Not saying avoid any of this stuff. It's very important to go and make the proper amends to the proper people. And that's something that you work through on an individual basis with your peer support and so on and so forth, therapeutic support and so on and so forth. The last thing some people should be doing is going around and saying, I did a lot of stupid things. Yeah. Especially in a lot of the rooms, because there's legal professionals that if they hear something, they have to acknowledge it. And, I've had judges and police officers and stuff like that. Like, I don't know what to do. And then they hear later that that person did it again, and they're like, shit, I should have done it. Yeah. Should have done something about it. So, practice what you preach. It's very important. Very important. You can't make an amends if you're going to revert back and be unforgiven all the time.
Yeah.
I think there's a reminder here, too, that there's nothing you can't come back from. There's only one thing that's absolute, right? And that's the end. It's death. Yeah. So you could be right on the brink of this terrible life thinking that you're not, hey, it's over. I can't come back from this, but you can. You can come back from it, right? You can change. You can do whatever it takes, and you can, mend relationships and that sort of thing and live a completely different life by choice, right?
Do you want a better life?
Yeah.
Are you willing to do the work?
Yep. And I think that's something that right there, because people don't understand that the idea of constant work and having challenges constantly present. People think that a good life is devoid of challenges, and we mentioned it earlier, but it's against your nature to eliminate. Like if you had an opportunity, I'll give you an example. Elon Musk, he's worth $600 billion as of this week. 600 B. That's more money than anybody has ever openly had, because there are trillionaires out there in the world. You just don't know about it, but they control everything you do. Anyway, Rockefeller. But getting to it, the man is still working on stuff. He's still coming up with ideas and things and challenges and things. He doesn't need anything. He could have whatever he wants. He could give everybody a crap ton of money and still have a crap ton of money left that he will never spend. But he's still challenging himself in certain regards. Whatever, agendas he may have, whether they're for good or for darkness, we won't know yet. But it lets you know when you see somebody, with a lot of financial success that ends up committing suicide. Mm. And somebody who hasn't worked a day in their life and they're unhappy as hell because they inherited a trust fund and they inherited these houses and this lifestyle and they don't want for anything, but they are miserable.
How many of them are capable of being honest? Because many of us seek that financial stability their whole life. Mm-hmm. Many of us seek a situational stability our whole life, and once we achieve it, we're still not happy. Mm-hmm. What is the hope?
Yeah.
And that hope is a lot of the solution. The solution really comes down to maintaining a perspective of hope instead of hopelessness. Mm-hmm. And for me, that's achieved by not being alone. That's, for me, forgiving oneself for different aspects of my reality. Mm-hmm. For me, it's trying to see a new light instead of saying, no, this is my light and I can't change it. And taking an alternative perspective, a cosmic perspective, is what I really believe in. Mm-hmm. And that helps me. The insignificance of who I am is great, but doing that with dignity is wonderful.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Like literally understanding I have zero value and all the value in the world. Because every little impact that I could have on somebody, I hope it to be positive. Mm-hmm. Without that hope, then I'm going to start doing destructive things. Then I become more of a pirate than a saint.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, just reminding yourself that it's constant work and that's a good thing. Yeah. That's a good thing, right? Yeah. You have to work on this. For how long? For forever. Mm-hmm. That's a good thing.
Yeah. If you're a good person today, be a better one tomorrow.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you can't achieve being a better one, that's fine. Learn from the mistakes you made, and then go get on the high horse. Find a council of peers that can actually help you, and walk through it together.
That brings me to these 2 rat studies that you mentioned.
I love that.
I'm mentioning the one where they gave these little rats everything, and then they became fat and content, and they didn't want to, didn't want to procreate anymore, and the whole colony would die because they were just fat, lazy, and they weren't doing anything because they gave them everything. It was utopic environment, right? Yeah. And then you mentioned the one where this really drives it home about the opium addicted rats.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, you have a cage of rats. One of them's addicted to opium or heroin or whatever you want to call it. And so they have one water bottle that has the opium, the other water bottle that's just straight water. And so several other rats are not addicted to any chemical, and they choose the regular water. The one that's addicted to the opium, he's the first week or so, he's drinking of the opium water. Then he wants to be part of the community, so he slowly weans himself off and goes from being part of the community and starts drinking regular water, weans himself off of it. And I mean, that's the power of community. That's the hope for all of us that are battling some form of, just say, addiction. Mm-hmm. Let's just say the disease of the mind that many experience in this world.
Yeah. Well, you didn't equate it, but you said like digital addiction is an addiction, right? And you look at the influence of community with that. And I'm guilty of this. I'm not removed from this at all, but when you're with a group of friends and two of them pull out their phone to look at it, and then all of a sudden everyone's pulled out their phone to look at it, or you're at dinner with somebody and they check their phone, you reach down and check your phone. But if they didn't, would you have? And so there is power in that. And that's just, you could say that's benign. That's just looking at your phone. But there is dopamine levels and there
I
is
think,
change with that.
Taking it from addiction and extrapolating, if he's telling you right here that he's living proof that social connection and having good community is life-saving in the matter of addiction, then you can extrapolate that when it comes to health and things like that. If you surround yourself with people that want to have healthy existences, the chances of you getting healthier increase, right? So this is it applies to everything. Then I gave you an example of war or whatever you want to think about it. This permeates our existence. It's being connected to each other, really. Not like phones and metaverse, like actual, boom, we're here. I'm looking at you in the eye. Put that stupid phone away. We're having a conversation. We're eating dinner, like breaking bread, as long as it's sourdough bread, y'all. But that matters a lot.
Yeah.
Now, in kind of closing here, we got to point to the pitfalls of the recovery industry, right? Because getting clean and sober can be very expensive. And a lot of people, they have financial resources that they invest heavily into the process. Other people's insurance payouts, whatever, but it can get pricey, right? You got to go away for a couple of months. You're not working. And there's also a part where people are taken advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
The strongest people I see in recovery are the ones that did this without any resources.
They didn't have somebody paying for it for them?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, they literally had their back was to the wall. They had no other option except for choose this path. Mm-hmm. The ones that I was very fortunate to go to a very nice facility. For me, it was exactly what I needed at the time. Could I have done it a lot of different ways? Absolutely. But the ones that I see working, some of the strongest recovery are the ones that I literally had to place into my car. The ones that could not even stand up on their own accord anymore. I'm literally putting them in my car, taking them to the emergency room, make sure their vitals are okay, taking them to a state-run facility, and they have nothing except for the clothes that's been offered to them by someone generous enough, and that's it. And to watch them go through that journey, and don't get me wrong, I do that, and I still watch people get enough and go back to the old life.
Yep.
But the ones that I see, the few amongst all these people that truly want to get better, the ones that decide to choose a healthy direction for whatever reason, what I consider an act of providence. For that reason, they choose that. Those are the ones that I see do better than anything. Is there value to the really nice facilities? Yes. Is there value to the mediocre? Yes. Is there value to the state run? Is there value to doing it at home? For each individual, there's value to all those things. The disappointing aspect of it is when people take advantage of it. And there are medical boards, Agency for Healthcare Administration, DCF, all them, they're all there trying to make sure that no one takes advantage of somebody in a vulnerable state right now. And I think they do a pretty good job of it. I really truly do. But it's unfortunate because they can only govern so much before that governing agency becomes the agency itself, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so, but I do got to reinforce that, and it speaks to this in our literature, is you work in this industry long enough, you will become calloused. You work in the fitness industry, and you guys, I'm sure, have your own journeys of losing tolerance towards individuals because we are human. So how do we refill that tolerance? That's the balance that I speak of. Because if I do too much of one thing, I'm only living for that other person then, instead of actually surviving or living for myself. Survival versus living. So yeah, the industry itself has its flaws. There's no doubt about it. Florida, especially, there's books written on it. There's movies, written on it, and so on and so forth. There's a problem.
Yeah,
Do
it's
you
very
think-
profitable for some people, and it almost makes you wonder, listen, if you're great at something, like I always say, I think you should make all the money in the world doing it. But there are certain problems that when they go unsolved, they become very lucrative, right?
The problem should be getting better, not worse.
Yeah.
Right. Do you think that the implementation of things like Suboxone, what's the one that starts with an M? Methadone?
Oh, methadone and Suboxone.
Suboxone, methadone, things like that. Do you think that those are helpful and have made strides in getting people to sobriety and maintaining it? Or do you think it's fallen short of what it potentially could have been, or it depends on individuals?
Depends on individuals.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything has a purpose.
Yeah.
Everything has a purpose, but almost everything could be abused.
Right. Oh, yeah, I know people can abuse methadone. They can abuse Suboxone. Yeah.
And, I don't envy any psychiatrist out there that's sitting here trying to prescribe medication, because you're dealing with somebody that's known to be a massive liar, and you're trying to sort through the best you can.
And you're almost trying to pick the lesser of two evils.
Which is why they call it, harm reduction.
Yeah.
And so they're putting them on a medication that has a better chance of them not dying, in the chance that they could find the solution in this. It's literally providing a chemically safe bubble for their existence.
Yeah.
So that they have a chance of finding more hope and a path of success. And I have several men that I work with now that at their journey of getting off Suboxone, some of them did it without any supplement aids, but there are definitely ways to get off of it that are uncomfortable, but not intolerable, like just trying to wean off of it. Because I've also watched people die going off of this.
Yeah.
Because it's just insufferable to watch these people go on something that they're like, here's something. I can't go down that road. I hate the drug.
Yeah. Well, I can understand that, because I'm sure some people, it's exactly what they need to get them to the next step to then continue on their journey. But I know some people, it just puts them in a space where they're technically not doing anything against the law, but they're not getting quote unquote better.
I watch too many not get better. So I guess that illuminates stronger in my core. It's the more that are on it that don't get better than do get better.
I think, it goes back to the title, PharmaPhobic, and the intent, right? Like, the solutions have to be, there's a lot of crutches out there, and in all aspects, health, addiction. And you need to understand that when you put all your eggs in the crutch, you're not really dealing with anything, and you're not solving anything. And I think realizing that, and that the power has to be, you have to empower yourself through spirituality, through constant practices, through better habits to actually solve, not to be like, I'm going to get to this Band-Aid and I'm just going to exist in the Band-Aid realm, because that doesn't end well either.
Yeah.
Mind, body, spirit. Exactly.
And then I have one last question for you. Opioids, prescription opioids. What's your experience in helping others? Because it doesn't sound like that was one of your battles personally.
I dabbled, but
But
I liked them too much, so I'm like, I got to get away from them.
but is that because as a medical professional, I have to take every 3 years training on opioid prescribing and looking for addiction and stuff like that. But I've heard a ton of stories anecdotally about people who that was their step into addiction.
Yes.
Was being prescribed an opioid for a quote unquote appropriate reason.
Right now with this fentanyl thing, you hear that a lot. People with very active lives that were given an opiate at some point for an injury. Shit, my family member that I was talking about earlier that started with that cocaine thing, he was given an opiate, and that really threw him out of control.
It opened Pandora's box.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's no way to know that from a medical standpoint.
Yeah.
Scratch that. There's a genetic way to know that. So I know there's new technology, new ways of reading it. You can read the way that people's body and metabolism actually act with these different chemicals, including different, psychological ones.
Yeah, so there's a test called GeneSight that I'm most familiar with, but that's mostly for antidepressants, anti-psychotics, and anti-anxiety medications.
Correct. So there's a science behind a lot of this, and more will be revealed.
Yep.
Once again, everything has a purpose. Do I think that people want to be pain-free?
Yeah, I think
pain is bad.
that's something that the conventional medicine is really messed up, because pain was added as a vital sign, but not a woman's menstrual period. I just want to say that. Okay. Anyway, but we started to cater, and that goes back to the patient satisfaction. If they're not in pain, that means they're satisfied. But then if you look in surgeries, as a quick example, when a child goes through a surgery, they don't give them opioids. They don't medicate them heavily with pain. But an adult, they do, even if they have the same surgeries. Like, think of a tonsillectomy. But with the kids, they have them up, moving around, interacting with them, giving them like some sort of social support, because like I said, the nurses are more interacting with them. But the adult alone in your room, don't bother us, take your pain meds.
Back to societal norms.
Yeah.
Is I can't feel pain because then I'm vulnerable.
Yeah.
I need help. I need support. I need connection. I need love. I need
But it's
hope. I need
okay
spirituality.
for kids, not for adults. But that's one thing I love about, there's a push with more abdominal surgeries, because the biggest side effect of opioid medications is constipation. If you have abdominal surgery, you have to fart and poop to get free. Okay?
Yeah.
And so you need your stuff to move. So they have them up, moving around, taking minimal pain medication. If all other surgeries would like that, would we see improvements across the board in some addictions?
Yeah. I go to the give and take, right? Like, it gives you this pain relief, but what does it take? Especially if you're gambling with the possibility of being hooked on opiates, and a lot of, you look at the development of a lot of these medications, they knew that it was going to cause problems, and they unleashed this stuff on the world openly, and they paid people to push it, and they paid people to use it all the time, and doctors were making this freaking insane. Oh, you being from Ohio, I mean, that's probably one of the biggest areas that was affected by this, you know what I mean?
Your location makes you
yeah. No, but it's Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana.
Ohio's great, especially Cleveland, armpit of America. We're very, humble up there.
I mean, but it's crazy that, this thing just spread like wildfire. And it's like, okay, when we look at the history of these opiates, did they take more than they gave?
Yes.
I'm gonna think it's yes.
Yes, but I mean that's the business versus the aspect, like the ethical aspect of it, and it was new, so there was a curve, there was a learning curve to it all, and I understand all that. I go back to, if you go back to the generational rift, the dynamic of that individual, and then you go to society norms and lack of being able to be afraid and so on and so forth. I'm afraid of pain. I'm afraid of this. Or like the doctor's just, the doctor or the person is like, hey, it's okay. I got something for that. Yeah. It's okay. I got something for that. It's, back in the day, it was, a couple that just drink for a week. Here's your solution, or dilute it out, blot it out in other different ways, from barbiturates and so on and so forth. So, I mean, we've been playing with the same stuff for forever.
That's very true.
Forever. And then we find out it's bad, and, general society is hooked on it.
Yeah.
And now we try and get everybody off of it, but everybody wants more of it. So then it creates a mini civil war.
Yeah.
And so we're barking up the same tree. It's the same cycle that kind of, in my belief, it's the same cycle that's been going on for eons. Mm-hmm. Should we know what we're doing?
No.
I believe that we could learn from our past, but science and history says we don't.
Yeah.
Is that a human condition?
I think so.
I think a final point, you mentioned, weed, which we've talked about here. and I think that's the biggest deception now, because morphine and opioids, we kind of knew what we were getting into in more ways than none. We had a narcotic effect, but weed is one that's like, nah, this is good for you, bro. Antidepressant,
It's
you
natural.
fight cancer. Like, we've had these campaigns on marijuana for ages now.
Do you need it or do you want it?
Exactly. And now,
Back to opiates, same thing.
Yep.
but it's crazy because they sell it to you like it's not habit forming, right? That's the big sell on weed, and it gives you all this pain relief and all. And listen, to a certain extent, I agree.
Yeah.
I'd rather pop a freaking edible than take a Vicodin.
And that's the crazy part about addiction in general, is it served its purpose. It took away the pain and suffering, emotional, physical, psychological, spiritual pain that I didn't know how to get rid of. So drugs and alcohol do that for millions of individuals across the world, over the world. So what are we trying to find the solution to? Is it drugs and alcohol, or is it, from all the science I know, it's a disease of the mind?
Yep.
It centers in the mind. And so what are we actually mending here? What are we trying to get better? Is it anyone's fault? No. Most people I know are lazy, including myself. And I'd much rather believe you guys than go do my own research, because I trust you guys. Because you've never given me any reason not to. But if you don't do your own research, then you're just going to fall into that. I believe they're good. I believe they're right. I believe, until you're like, how did this happen to me?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And so need versus want. Do you need medication? Whether it be marijuana, opiates, fentanyl, or so on and so
Blood
forth,
pressure
alcohol.
medication, something. Yeah.
Do you need it or do you want it? And then sometimes that want turns into a need because the body actually needs it in order to survive. And then we got to go to a treatment facility for the clinically insane and try and find a way off of that in a healthy medical way so we don't die, because alcohol is one of them that, like, when you're coming off it, you could have a major seizure and die.
Yes. Benzos as well.
And it's crazy because now we're ending at a point where marijuana is putting people in rehab facilities, and nobody ever thought that was possible.
Yeah. And so that's the biggest thing. And they're usually the young demographic. The older ones are usually, not as affected. Like you were talking, the frontal cortex doesn't get affected as badly as, people that are at least 25 years and older. And, there's so much research being done on that. But yeah, weed, marijuana, THC, dabs, whatever you want to call it, all these different things that are going on. Do you need it or do you want it?
Yeah. Do we need the weed to be 99% THC?
That's fine. Take a very small amount then. You don't need more.
Yeah.
What do we need versus what do we want?
Yeah, I think it ended, because back what your grandfather was smoking was, they said 30 to 40% if it was high quality THC.
Yeah.
And now you're dealing with people that take a little drop of oil, put it in their mouth, and it's 99% THC.
Go back to sugar. Do we need it all or do we want it all?
It's
We want it all. Yeah.
It's a dark time. So that's just a word of caution out there for people that think, I don't have an issue. I just smoke a little weed, baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
But do you have an issue?
And we've had this talk about antacids and, so on and so forth. You help me get off of those, in the same nature. Like, you got to eat clean in order to do that. You're like, it's going to suck for about 3 weeks. You got to do this. Like chicken and rice, broccoli. Chicken, rice, broccoli. Don't put anything on it. I'm like, God damn it. For a man that was eating fast food 3-4 times a day,
Yeah.
it's, in between that, I'm having sit-down meals, I'm eating a crap ton. I didn't gain weight, but I didn't feel good.
Yeah.
It was just one of those. It just wasn't functioning right up here. And why was I doing all of that? And we go back to the negative self-worth, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. But I feel like our human body will, if you're eating like crap, your stomach doesn't feel good, you have reflux. But here comes Big Pharma, here's a medication to take away that, to allow you to keep doing that stuff that your body's trying to tell you to stop doing.
Back to it.
So anyway.
Band-Aid.
But
Yeah.
Then
all
I
right.
need something to fix that. And
So do you have a social media presence, a website, or anything where people can reach out to you? Or we will be more than happy to be the reach out to us and we'll reach out to him.
Yeah. We will facilitate that communication. First of all, thank you for coming and sharing.
Yes, thank you very much.
for having me.
This is,
Yeah,
I
this is
think,
amazing.
we've been talking about it for a while because it's like, man, we should have Ryan on to talk about addiction because it's definitely one of the big things that's killing us. It's killing the population, not just here, especially here in the United States, but this is a global thing, right? The growing amount of people that are perishing due to addiction, it's a number that keeps growing everywhere, right? Even in countries that you wouldn't associate with substance abuse, their numbers are going up as well. Mm-hmm. So we have to talk about this. So I appreciate you coming on and definitely shedding some light into the topic. Guys, if you have any questions, again, if you need help from somebody like Ryan, we would definitely facilitate that. You can reach out to us through.
You can email us at info@achievethelifestyle.com. Shoot us a DM on Instagram at Achieve the Lifestyle.
Why would they shoot a DM?
Because that's where it go down.
It do go down in the DM.
Or if you know us personally, message Dan or I individually, or if you have our phone numbers, text us. And if you have you yourself, a loved one who would benefit from speaking with Ryan, we would be more than happy to put you into contact with him.
You have almost 3 hours of content here that you've probably consumed. If you have, we're very grateful for your participation in this conversation. Ooh, that rhymed.
And if you have any questions, like general questions about addiction, recovery, anything like that, you want to know more about, we could always have Ryan back on. So please give us that feedback.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot you can take out of this if you listen to it and listen to it again. When you listen to it, share this because everybody knows somebody that's dealing with addiction. Everybody. I mentioned family members, clients. Everybody knows somebody that's dealing with it. We're not impervious. I don't know anybody that lives in a place where they can't point to somebody, yes, he's an alcoholic. Yes, he's doing too many drugs. I don't know anybody at this point who doesn't have a degree of separation from addiction. So share the show. We talked about God. We talked about social connection. And it might behoove you, if you don't have these things in your life, it might behoove you. I strongly encourage you to seek them out. Okay? You might be like, oh, damn, get right, bro. Get right, okay? With that in mind, guys, we're out. Till the next episode. Thank you, Ryan, for coming.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you guys for having me. Really.
Yep. And till the next episode, stay pharma-free. Thanks for listening to the PharmaPhobic podcast. If you found this conversation interesting, which I know you did, make sure to follow us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And also make sure to check us out on Instagram at Achieve the Lifestyle. And if you're interested in pursuing a stronger, healthier, more capable version of yourself, check out our website at achievethelifestyle.com.
The PharmaPhobic podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. The views expressed are those of the hosts and guests and do not constitute medical, legal, or professional advice. Always consult a qualified healthcare provider before making any medical or wellness decisions. While we discuss pharmaceutical, holistic, and alternative health topics, our content is not a substitute for professional medical guidance.